Fern just casually saying what she said here for the end of the episode, like, I'll be able to kill Frieren, is not something I expected from just the story of Frieren. Like, I never thought I would hear those words uttered from her mouth. And honestly, this episode has got me even more hyped than the ending of last week's episode, and it's so painful, man. It's so freaking painful, dude. Like, this series is legitimately pain to wait for the next episode, because it's like, as an anime only, it sucks, dude, because, like, these episodes only feel like 5 minutes, man. They only feel like 4 or 5 minutes. It does not feel like a full-length, like, 20-minute episode. And I'm just like, really? That's it? And then I get so upset. And every single one of these episodes that come out, it makes me want to dive headfirst into the manga. But obviously, the reason why I've stopped is because I made it this far. You know, it's episode 24. But also, it's like, you know, we only have a few episodes left until Frieren's anime comes to an end. I really hope that we get a Season 2 announcement. Please, let us get a Season 2 announcement. I really hope we do, because this series definitely needs it, because Studio Madhouse and their staff, the freelancers, everyone has just been cooking. But okay, with that being said, I will talk about this scene more in a second. I want to talk about this certain scene here. This absolutely beautiful just fighting moment. Like, oh my goodness, can we just talk about the art animation of this sequence and how good it looks? Like, the cinematography, the choreography is just, it's so good. And I love the little details here with, like, the movement of the character. And it's just, like, I don't know, man. But, like, the little movement here with the weapon. Like, here, look at this really quick. Like, just the way the parry is done with, like, the deflect of the weapon. It seems like it's so simple. And, like, it's just such a little scene. It's just, like, a few seconds or not even. And there's so much work just put into that scene alone. Not including everything that follows after this. That it's just, like, the person that worked on this really loves this segment. They went try hard, so to speak. Like, oh my goodness, like, look at this, dude. It looks so freaking good, dude. Like, oh, I love this so much, dude. Like, oh. Like, seriously, look how good this sequence looks and all that. It's just, man, it's so beautiful. I really love this. I especially just love, like, you know, just like how she gets saved in the end here. He comes through the door, and oh yeah, the thigh shot, by the way. We literally get the window thigh shot. Like, you know whoever animated this knew what they were doing. But, anyways, let's actually get into the big theme of this episode, what was going on, and kind of just like what to expect for the next episode. So I'm a little bit upset that we didn't get the Frieren fight this week. I'm going to be blunt with you, because like last week's episode really built it up. It built up like, you know, Frieren, the Slayer, like a Dark Souls level boss, like a final boss about to face, you know, the champions or the people in the dungeon trying to dungeon dive. You know, it was really exciting just seeing how they would face her. But what this episode does give us is that it builds up Frieren's fight. It builds up what to expect, and if the clone, or replica, actually has a personality, thoughts, memories, or if it really is just a dumb clone. And this episode has two things that conflict with each other, but I think it's obviously trying to fool the audience, and let's get right into that. So, one thing that this episode wants to tell you when you get into the later half of it, and what the characters try to say, is that most likely Frieren's clone, and most likely, you know, the other clones and stuff, they don't have memories or a personality. They have nothing going on in their minds. But there is certain scenes throughout this episode that showcase that that is probably not the case. And let's explain. Basically, this whole little fight segment here, where you have these two going at each other, like the duplicate, you know, going up against her own self, you know, she talks about how she, the clone, stole the golem bottle, okay? And that's exactly what she would have done if she was in that situation. And when you think about it like that, it implies that this clone is thinking. It has a personality. It's acting out in a way that would be very similar to the actual real living version. And so it makes you assume, okay, so there is thoughts going on. But then the episode showcases like a scene where Sense appears, which I'll show this scene here. It's a really interesting segment, but like you have these group of mages, they fight Sense, and it's very clear that, judging from what we know from this character, you know, she isn't someone that would harm anyone, because she is a pacifist. That has been literally reinstated multiple times just in this episode, but in the previous episodes. So if we think about that, you know, thought, that means that technically if this truly was the personality and the memory and everything of the actual person of Sense, they would not harm someone. But they do. We literally see a moment to where she is actually harmed and is going to die if she didn't summon her golem. And she would have, if the golem wasn't summoned right then and there. So it's clear that the clone isn't exactly the same as the original, unless Sense is a liar. That is a thing, but I doubt that. So, what's going on here? Why is a clone acting distinctively different from its original, and why is it implying that there is no thought? Because this scene implies there is no thought really going on, they just act out like they are doing, and they're not the same. But we literally have a scene where it's clear that there is some form of thought going on. And so, when you factor that in, I think I know what's going on. If they do have the personality and the memories of the original, okay? That would mean that Sense knows they're a clone, which is a scary thought to think about. Like, it's legitimately scary. I might be making this too complicated or overthinking it, but, like, if that is indeed the case, this clone knows it's a clone, and is like, well, I'm obviously a test for these test takers, so I need to go all out. And they realize that they're not the original, so they're willing to hurt people, because it's a part of the test. And if that is indeed the case, that's legitimately scary. Unless, you know, there is one aspect of the clones as well that just doesn't care. It will still kill people regardless of its original personality or not. So that is food for thought. Now, another way to look at this, if this is indeed the case, and the reason why Sense acted like she did, because she realized she was a clone, that would mean that this scene here that happened with this fight, the reason why the clone went and stole the bottle, like the golem bottle, is because it knew that if it stole the bottle, it would put the situation where the original would have to risk her life and then drag in the Glasses Boy to be able to help her, to be able to get to know him more, to learn his magic of cloning. So everything about the situation, it's like the clone was working with her to be able to learn more about him, if that is what I'm understanding from these duplicates. They have their own thoughts and motivations, and they're just working to the whims of, like, what they actually would desire, but they know they're actual clones to begin with. Now, anyways, with that being said, there is something that does need to be talked about, and that is the fact that Frieren herself confirms that the clone of her is the same strength level. That is terrifying. And when she said that, I'm going to assume, it's not stated, but I'm assuming that she meant that it is literally her strength level. Like, her strength that she's hiding as well is also there. And if that is indeed the case, holy crap. Like, we know how scary Frieren's mana pool is, and if it really has duplicated that, it really does just make you wonder, what really is the creature down in the bottom? Like, we heard its name, but really, like, what is it? Like, does it have any association with, like, the Demon King or anything? There's so many things, really, I am wondering about. But regardless, though, it's going to be a tough fight, and I am curious to see how Fern is going to be able to take it down, because she says that she could take it down, and if it is indeed mimicking the personality and memories of the original, then that would mean that it would make sense Fern to be able to take it down, because Frierin's probably not going to hurt Fern. That's the truth. It really is. So, yeah, honestly, just an incredible episode of Frieren this week. There's a lot of good thought-provoking moments that makes you wonder what's going to happen. We get a lot of fundamentals about magic as well, like hypnotic magic and stuff, and, you know, being able to mesmerize people or put them to sleep or whatever. It's really interesting. And I especially love this little cute scene with, like, Frieren at the end, where, like, Fern gets a little bit jealous because, like, Frieren was, you know, trying to see if she could be hypnotized or whatever, and Fern was getting jealous and grabbed Frieren and dragged her to herself. It was a super adorable, super cute scene. I love it. I love those little moments as well, of comfy moments alongside of the serious nature. But man, this arc has honestly just been incredible. Banger episode of Frieren. Truthfully, truth be told, I cannot wait to see where they're going to go next with it, because it's like, judging by everything that this episode set up, next week is going to be the fight against Frieren. And judging by the title as well, Perfect Replicas, let's see how perfect the replicas really are, because if so, we're probably going to get to see magic from Frieren that we have never seen before. I really am curious about that. I really am, because, like, Frieren going all out against herself is going to be an absolute treat to see. I hope that the art and animation in the fight looks really good. I'm assuming it will. I mean, Frieren has not disappointed, I think, any of us at this point in terms of the way it looks. Also, I love this little dungeon moment here. It's something I actually briefly want to cover before I wrap up this video. But, like, when they discover this little hidden room here, and, like, Fern gets a little bit excited, Frieren notices it, and she gets happy. Like, she smiles. And, like, the scene cuts away and all that pretty much instantly after this, and they go back down the stairs. And what this means here, the message of this sequence, is that Frieren's like, so you understand the joy of dungeon diving. For instance, exploring and finding new things that you never expected. In this case, you know, Fern seeing this, like, nice, like, art on the wall was something that made her very happy, and it might inspire her to want to explore the dungeons more to potentially discover something like this. And Frieren was, like, sharing a camaraderie, being able to understand what, you know, Fern was feeling in those moments. A very beautiful moment, honestly. I like that. A lot of character building and character growth moments and bonding between the two. But, yeah, that's about it, honestly. I'll leave it at that. Tell me your thoughts. How did you feel about this week's episode of Frieren? Or do you think that Fern is capable of killing Frieren? Be honest. I am legitimately curious. But with that, Chibi out.